A very good evening to all the viewers and welcome everyone on the Facebook page of Purnam Ecovision Foundation. So this is our webinar, the 12th webinar of the webinar series. It is under awareness initiative of Purnam Ecovision Foundation. So before starting, I would like to introduce you all to Purnam. We are currently working on environment and waste management. We have been working since 8 years now, and the main projects which we are working on is fabric upcycling, in which we have started a new project which is called Your Denim, Our Creativity, Our Product. So in this, we are accepting the denim and fabrics from all over the Pune, people from all over Pune, and we are showing creativity by making products from these material which we are collecting. Secondly, we are working on e-waste and plastic waste management. We are collecting e-waste and plastic waste through society drives at society level. So every weekend we have these. Contact us if you want to donate your e-waste or plastic waste. Now as it is festival time, so everyone has started cleaning their houses and all. So if you have any waste, just you can contact us on our Facebook page, or even on Instagram. We are also on Instagram. So yes, so the project which we are working on is green consultancy. In that we have rainwater harvesting and composting. So these are also actually and composting. So the next ones is sanitary napkin management and disposal, which we have a plant at Fulton. So these are some of the projects. You can know more about it on our page, and you can contact us for more details. So coming back to our webinar, I would like to introduce our CEO, Mr. Rajesh Manirikar, sir. Welcome, sir. And I would like to request you to introduce the speaker of today's topic, and the topic which we are going to, conduct today. It is obviously everyone knows, waste to wealth, transforming waste to wealth. And today we are especially considering the e-waste management case. So today it is mainly going to be entrepreneurship opportunities in e-waste. So yes, sir, Rajesh, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Tanvi. Good evening, all our viewers, and also good evening and Mr. Prabhu, Varkanath Prabhu. It's our
Good evening.
good evening. Yes. So it's very familiar to introduce Dr. Prabhu. Basically, he is electronic engineering graduate, and having research experience or research master's degree from IIM Bangalore. He has conducted extensive research in multiple areas, especially in social impact such as environmental issues and poverty problems. He has basically a technical background along with social impact experiences in various projects and ground level experiences from various environmental issues and entrepreneurships and rural social entrepreneurship and rural development sector. If we consider him as entrepreneur, he after 18 years working in IT industry, he has started or co-founded the waste management entrepreneurship company, that is Respose Waste Management and Research Private Limited. He has been awarded with various awards, especially ST Taskar Award by Marathi Vignan Parishad, gold medal for innovative research by DST, that is Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has also award from various CSR councils, All India Council, and other such institutions. Basically, to introduce him in one liner, he is basically technocrat having social entrepreneurship in mind, and to keep various segments of society connect to the technical aspect of the problem solving area. So that is the main area where Mr. Prabhu is working. We will get to know more about him from his talk. But before that, he has written one book which is already on stall, that is Recycle and Grow Rich, and his second book is on the way to for publishing, that is Ideas for Entrepreneurship, is also expected shortly. So we have it is our great honor to introduce to welcome Mr. Prabhu on the Purnam's platform, on this webinar platform. And I think I am sure that viewers will get all specific knowledge about e-waste management and the entrepreneurship opportunities in e-waste. So over to you, Mr. Prabhu, and obviously to our viewers, whatever your questions, you can post it on our Facebook comment box. Our moderator will give proper justice to your questions. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Prabhu.
Yes, sir, I would like to add something to this. Before starting, everyone, it's a request. You can share this link and the video to all your contacts so that we can connect to more people. You can also start watch party so that more people can connect. And later on, the comments, you'll be able to also comment on the video so that we can, interact with our speaker. Okay, so let us start. Uh, Prabhu sir, you can
Yeah. So
also
thank
start.
you, Mr. Manarik. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Manarikar, and thank you, Tanvi. Thank you very much to the entire team of Purnamiko Vijam Foundation for organizing this event and inviting me to be a part of it. Um, Namaste and a warm welcome to the entire audience this wonderful afternoon. I'm just starting to share my screen. So just give me a moment. Okay, can you see
Yes,
the
sir. It
screen
is
now?
visible. Yes, sir. Yes.
Great. Okay. So Tanvi has already mentioned the purpose of today's session as an event for entrepreneurs who would like to know about the opportunities in the e-waste space. So in the next 45 minutes or so, I shall be talking about environment-centric entrepreneurship, enviropreneurship as I call it, and the various possibilities that you can explore in transforming waste to wealth. Okay, but before Okay, I actually have not logged into Facebook. So, anyways, I'll have to skip this poll. I had a small poll, and I wanted to post that poll in the Facebook chat window itself, so that we could have had some kind of interaction. But because of bandwidth problems, I decided not to log into Facebook at the last moment. Uh, But yeah, let me ask you this question. What, according to you, is the most important thing in ideating for a startup? Uh, is it uniqueness of your product or service? Is it money, that is profitability and cash flow of the business? Is it your understanding of your customers? Or is it competition analysis? Or is it something else? Now, whatever you feel, you can just type in the chat box and I'll have a look at it later. But let me give you my perspective of the whole thing. Okay. So the concept of wealth creation is something that we need to understand. We started with this topic. The subject of the topic is transforming waste to wealth. So let's understand what this wealth, how is this wealth created, first of all, right? Okay. The first step is to identify a problem. Whenever there is a problem or wherever there is a problem, there lies an opportunity. And if you can solve this problem faster and better than anyone else, you can create a differentiating value for yourself. Take a simple real life example. Everyone feels hungry. Hunger is a problem. It needs to be resolved. Now, let's say if in your office area, wherever your office is located, in the close vicinity, there is no hotel or the nearest one is not good enough. This is a problem for those who don't carry a lunchbox, right? So, problem identification is the first stage. So, how do you find this problem? Through active observation. We all see and do a lot of things, but we rarely observe, right? How many times since morning did you use an electronic or electrical device? Have you noticed? How many total electrical devices do you use daily? Have you counted? How many electrical devices did you retire last year? That is, stopped using last year and probably replaced with something? I'm sure all of you have read about e waste as a problem, but have you yourself observed it? Have you felt it as a problem? And have you noticed your own contribution to the problem? This is active observation. Okay. Okay. So, how many of you think that waste management is a problem? If you do, type WIP in the chat box. Waste is a problem. WIP. Just type in a chat box. I'll see it later how many have typed. Okay. So, now that you have found a problem, the next question is, do you have a solution? Now, you will be able to see a lot of problems only if you look closely enough. But you will not be able to solve them all. Just focus on the one that you can solve. Now, is it possible for you to solve the e-waste management problem? You may not know how to do it, but you can always get the technical know-how. You can engage consultants. What you should actually be asking is, are there technologies, systems, processes, any other essential elements in creating this solution? And are these things accessible to you? Some of you may be new to e-waste or waste in general and may not know the availability of these technologies. Let me assure you, good, reliable, affordable technologies are available here in India. My own company, Respose India, provides these technologies, consulting services, operational assistance, business process services, and everything else needed. We are a completely Indian company. We make these machines in India and also help in procuring from Germany and other European countries. Uh, I'm not trying to sell anything, uh, just wanted to give you an assurance that solutions are available. Okay? Now, you identified a problem and you also know that you have a solution available for resolving it. It still doesn't make a business sense. The most important question is the problem solvable? What is the value you can create or realize by solving the problem? And the value that you feel you are creating, does it sound valuable to others? In other words, are others facing the same problem? And will their life be better if the problem is solved? Will they see some value addition? And if yes, will they pay you for the service? Whether you charge directly or your rewards come from different avenues, it is still a sort of compensation. If the total compensation is more than the total cost of providing the solution, then it will qualify as a business proposition. No brainer, right? Now, we need to figure out who are all the beneficiaries and you can get compensated in many different ways depending on the nature of service that you provide. That is, which part of the problem are you solving? Since we have talked about this problem solution, value creation, leading to compensation, let's look at e-waste within this framework. Right? So when we think from a e-waste perspective, essentially we ask five simple questions. Is it a problem? We already agreed it is. But let us make it more relevant. In the area that you reside in the nearby area where you can reach, for example, say 100 kilometers radius from you, is e-waste regarded as a major problem? Is enough e-waste being generated? And do people in this area feel that it's a problem? If yes, fine. If no, you will need to raise their awareness level. You need to explain them why it is a problem. Many times people do not know their pain points. In marketing parlance, this is called latent need or an undiscovered need. You need to bring it to the surface by running awareness campaigns explaining the nature of e-waste and hazards that it presents. Okay. So as per studies conducted by us, we have identified at least 60 elements used in electronics. Many of these elements are hazardous. Electronics, as long as works, is fine. But when it is dumped carelessly and it comes in contact with heat and moisture, the metals in electronics start leaching in the soil, very much like leaking batteries that you may have seen. Now, rainwater washes this leachant into freshwater sources or even percolates down into the groundwater. The plastics emit CFCs in the air. So, air, water, and soil all get polluted, right? If left on its own, this degradation is very slow, and a single electronic item will not have much of an effect. However, the volume is so high that the cumulative impact would be catastrophic. Unfortunately, it is worse than this. The informal sector breaks open electronics in a very unscientific fashion with least regard to their own health, and environmental damage, etc., comes much later. So they run crude processes like acid leaching or open incineration for recovering of the valuable metals trapped inside the e-waste. This creates pollution of unimaginable magnitude. The spent acids or uncontrolled dioxins or furans rather, released during incineration, and the leachants such as arsenic or mercury from other discarded e-waste enter our body through the food we eat, water we drink, and the air we breathe. All these hazardous elements break our systems and are the major causes of diseases like cancer, tuberculosis, multiple sclerosis, kidney failures, cardiac complications. All of these are fatal. In fact, in today's COVID situation, we know how important health is. And if you have any of these complications, the possibility of COVID being fatal becomes even more higher, right? So, e-waste is dangerous, right? If it were to be taken care of in a proper manner, these risk factors can be minimized and the health quotient can be significantly improved. Enough value for the common man, you need to convince them. And that's not all. If we are able to recover significant amounts of metals from e-waste so that import of metal is reduced, it will have a positive impact on foreign exchange rate. A better forex rate will mean lower prices of petroleum. Lower oil prices have a positive impact on our cost of living, our day to day cost of living, even if you are not using a car. Now, Now, does it create good value for the common man? Surely it does. There are many such points whereby organized e waste recycling can create phenomenal value for the society, government, industry, and humanity. This much value creation, can you hope to be handsomely compensated in multiple ways through multiple channels? And the answer is yes. How? We shall see soon. Right? The third question is, how big is the problem of waste? It is the fastest growing stream of waste worldwide. The world generated 50 million tons of e-waste in 2018, of which India generated about 2 million tons in 2018. I am told this year it's likely to cross. That's by 2020 it's likely to cross 5 million. I don't trust that number, but still 2 millions is a huge number, and this is growing at a amazing rate. Multiple surveys have been conducted worldwide, and the rate of growth ranges anywhere between 20 to 30% year on year. Now, that is huge. Against India's 2 million tons of e waste generation, the install base of organized recyclers is just 180,000 tons. 2 million, by the way, is 20 lakh tons. Against that, we have 1 lakh 80,000 tons installed capacity. That is less than 10%. The rest is either stockpiled or it goes through informal channels. That is also slowing down due to multiple reasons such as increased awareness levels, tighter regulations, GST, and so on. Now, do you see the huge gap to be fulfilled? Do you sense a massive opportunity? Okay, we saw how big it is. Now, we already answered that to some extent when we look at the why of the e-waste problem. But apart from that, let's add the financial angle. Okay, worldwide, e-waste is a $5 billion industry, and still the entire world is struggling to manage the problem completely. The potential is to grow to $25 billion in the next few years. Now, is that important enough? $25 billion is seriously important. But even if we manage to get a small fraction, it is still a few crores of Indian rupees. And the fifth question, what will happen if you don't solve it? You, or in the sense, we all of us, we don't solve it. Honestly, nothing will happen because someone else will do it. We lose the opportunity. These five questions should help you to fathom the potential of the e-waste problem. Right? Now, before we jump into the solution part, let's quickly summarize. I would just request you to type in the chat box one key takeaway, just the one key thing that has struck you and stayed in your minds. Let's consolidate what we have thought about, we gathered so far before we move further. Okay. So since I'm not able to see the Facebook uh, interface, let me just move on to the solution part. There are five essential and distinct steps to solving the e-waste problem. We can build a venture on any or all of these steps. I generally recommend to focus on one or two core areas of activity and collaborate with others for the rest. Such a collaborative model will help in establishing e-waste recycling as a mainstream industry. Right? I spoke about this recently at another event. I'll be conducting one more event shortly for divulging the details of this approach. So, those of you who are keen on knowing more about all that I have said so far and all that I will be touching upon soon, please follow me on LinkedIn. You can search for, or you can just say, you can search for DB Prabhu and you will see mentoring enviropreneurs. Right? So, that's me, DB Prabhu hyphen mentoring hyphen enviropreneurs. That's my LinkedIn handle. So please feel free to connect and follow me. I'll be posting details about my upcoming program from my company uh, on my company's LinkedIn and Facebook pages. Right? Anyways, coming back to our discussion, let's understand these 5 steps and explore what all business models can be built at each stage. The first step is aggregation of all the electronic scrap that you can lay your hands on. In simpler words, it means collection. Now, this is often said to be the most complex and the most important step. Complex? Perhaps yes. Most important? Not exactly. Each of these 5 steps that you are seeing on the screen are equally important. Collection is definitely complex. Fundamentally, electronic waste comes in all forms, from a micro SIM all the way to huge complex devices such as telecom switches or control centers and anything that you can think of, right? And obviously, it is spread across every household, every office, every institution, every single establishment that you can think of. And these entities who generate e waste have the sole control on the time when they will dispose of this waste. Now, this uncertainty is basically of 2 types. What sort of waste is generated, or many types actually. This uncertainty is what sort of e waste will be generated, where is it located, how much is available, and when will it be accessible. This makes the collection a complex subject. And therefore, we need a solid technology based streamlined model to aggregate e waste. There are some companies in India, such as Recommerce and Sanshodhan, who are working towards solving a part of this problem. In fact, Purnam is also doing a lot of work in terms of collection. So, collection is the first area of opportunity. It's surely a problem. Is it possible to solve? Definitely yes. Who will pay for it? Well, depending on various factors, multiple stakeholders will pay part of the fees. For example, pickup of negative value items like bulbs and tubes. Manufacturers pay EPR fees. Scrap dismantlers, traders, and recyclers pay for purchasing the scrap from you. These are direct revenue streams. And there are some other important indirect revenue streams, which, if any one of you is actually going into e-waste, eventually we can discuss it separately, right? Now, step number 2 is segregation. In simpler terms, it means classification. A person engaged in aggregation can also decide to do segregation to increase his value. In fact, this is exactly what happens, right? That doesn't seem to be a separate entrepreneurial opportunity in the segregation side of doing the aggregation. But wait a minute. Assume that you are a specialist in segregation. Is it possible to render your segregation services to other aggregators so that they can focus on collection and increase their efficiency? You can charge a service fee depending on the time or the devices or a fixed fee or a combination of all. Another case, assume that you set up a complex, high tech, automatic classification facility. You can allow all aggregators to simply come in with the scrap, pass it through your facility at a cost, maybe per kg or per device. For some of you, these models may seem silly. You may feel it's like these models can't exist. But as of now, as I'm talking, they exist in other industries. We need to learn from them. It exists in the plastic scrap industry. It exists in the data science industry and even in the food industry. Now, as of now, it's difficult business proposition. As far as e-waste is concerned, it's difficult, I understand. But if you are able to carve a niche with some unique value, there is a possibility of structuring a business at this stage also. Imagine a mobile squad uh, equipped with certain equipment who can sift through tons of e-waste in a very short time and move on. I see a lot of value. It may be tough to build and establish it because of the current prevailing methods in scrap management, and also due to the lack of trust, transfer, yeah, even transparency and collaborative acumen within the recycling community is lacking. You know, but change always happens with the first one to create it and demonstrate the benefits. The third step is a no-brainer. Second-hand goods market has a huge potential. Of course, all goods do not qualify for this statement, but majority of them do. Right? If you can resell or refurbish second-hand equipment, there is a large profit to be made. Not just profit, excuse me, not just profit, but you are actually enabling someone to do something that they were otherwise not able to do. So while you make a lot of money, you are also creating a lot of potential opportunities in the society. When you look, when the second-hand items ultimately serves its purpose, most logically it will come back to you. You can always sell it to a scrap collector or a dismantler, whoever is willing to take it. But let me show you the risk factor here. Your inventory carrying cost can be very high. And since technology is ever changing, technological obsolescence is a huge risk. That is the real reason behind the hefty margins. So don't just jump into it looking at 300% profit margin. Yeah, that much margin is minimum you can get in reuse and refurbish. But be aware of the risks. You will need to have a solid remarketing plan to back you up, and that will mean a big investment. You may need a showroom, a digital marketing strategy, an army of salespeople, a call center, and so on. We can assist you in putting up all of this in a structured way. But just keep in mind, whenever something like a supernormal profit hits your eye, there is a lot under the surface. Realistically, a business opportunity with supernormal profits cannot exist, at least not for long. It is simply against the laws of the universe. Nevertheless, resale and refurbishing is a great business provided you have the necessary skills. The fourth step of the solution to the e-waste problem is dismantling and trading. We talked about trading, direct and indirect, in each of the earlier steps that we looked at. Essentially, you go for dismantling when there is no possibility of reuse or refurbishment. Typically, when you dismantle electronic equipment, you will just get three final components: the external cabinets, the circuit boards, and wires. For any item, these are the only three components you can get. Of course, there are internal items like power supplies and fans, but if you dismantle a power supply further, you will still have just a cabinet, a PCB, and a bunch of wires. Right? In case of a fan, there is just the body and the wire. In some other devices, you will not get any wires at all, just the body and the PCB, like in case of the mobile phones or calculators. There are other items like batteries and screens, but both of these are actually independent components of the assembly. Anyways, batteries and screens are a different ball game altogether, and also the total volume is much smaller compared to the overall e-waste generated. Essentially, we're talking about simple dismantling leading to separation of certain specific parts which can be used for resource recovery. But that's not all. You can take dismantling to the next level by depopulating PCBs, which means removing all the components from the circuit board. The reason for doing this is to classify the dismantled scrap even further and make the downstream recycling process easier and cheaper. Now, here is where you may find things getting overlapping and things getting confusing. Being a dismantler and selling the dismantled parts itself is a big economic activity, but the next step becomes little complex, which is the fifth and the final step of actual recycling and recovery of metals from e-waste. And this is the thing that media often talks about. The media hype about gold and silver and precious metals in e-waste is all a small part of this final step. Essentially, metal recovery from e-waste is a very laborious and intense job. You need a lot of capital and effort to realize this step. Theoretically, it's easy to extract gold, but practically implementing the process on a large scale without causing pollution and health hazards is where the challenge is. I have personally extracted gold from e waste using a laboratory beaker and a few simple instruments. Simple chemistry. But when it comes to a large scale, handling the volume becomes extremely dangerous. After all, human life is much more valuable than a few ounces of gold, right? That is why you need high end technology for precious metal extraction. There are many players in the market who would promise to do this with ridiculously inexpensive machinery, but it's a logical question that if it were so easy and so cheap, why don't we have many more recyclers in the country? Okay? It is not that easy. Metal extraction is expensive and everything doesn't contain gold. But you cannot base your business on gold. You have to consider copper as your main product because whatever is the e-waste type, you are sure to get copper. You cannot say the same thing about gold. Let me recap these 5 steps with the help of a interactive diagram. I'm exiting this presentation and moving on to a different window. So just give me a moment. I'll share a new application. Just give me a moment. Are you finding it useful? Are you able to hear me properly? Are there any problems? Please let me know.
No, sir, no issues. We can hear you properly.
Great, great. So I'm just moving on to the application that I want to show you. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Just says WEEE
Right,
is
right.
the wa- waste electrical and electronic equipment. Okay. So it's basically e-waste. When you collect e-waste, the first step of segregation is working and non-working. Okay. So whatever is working, you can simply go for resale. These green boxes which you see are the ones which are your revenue generating points. Okay, so just keep that in mind. When it comes to non-working items, you can refurbish them and again resell, and the rest of it can go to the recycling process. Now, in the recycling process, the first step is dismantling. Okay. Now, forget this red thing for a while. Let's concentrate on the cabinets and the wires. I told you that when you dismantle, you get basically cabinets, wires, and circuit boards. So within cabinets, you get MS sheets and plastics most of the time, and there is others. And whenever you see this yellow board, this is sellable, but some of it may not be sellable. Okay, like for example, wood or certain types of glass, they are not sellable. Okay, wires. When you just strip these wires, you get the insulation which is sellable. You you get the shielding, which is generally MS, that is saleable. And there is a conductor, which is copper or aluminum, both of which are saleable. And when you look at circuit boards, these circuit boards, they go to the step 2 of depopulation. That is the step 2 of dismantling, that is depopulation. When you depopulate these boards, you get these basic buckets: base boards, heat sinks, capacitors, transformers and inductance coils, connectors, others, ICs and MLCCs. Now, why I have structured them like this, you will understand in a moment. Base boards, when you process these base boards, they will give you two components, epoxy and copper. Epoxy is not saleable, it is usable, but generally you will not get a value for it. You may get some values in peanuts, but let's not talk about it. But copper is a saleable item. Heat sinks are 100% aluminum, directly saleable in the market. Capacitors, when you process them, they are plastic and aluminum to a major extent. And in that aluminum, there is a small part of silver, but the cost of extraction of the silver is so high that if you try to extract it, you will be in loss. So better to sell the silver as aluminum and make 100 rupees per kg at least, instead of losing it completely, right? Transformers and inductance coils, if you look at, there are two things in it. There's an inductor core and there is copper. Copper is definitely saleable. Inductor core, if you look at, there are two things: graphite and ferrite. Graphite is not saleable. Ferrite is. Graphite basically gets reduced to a powder form. Nothing can be done with it. It has to be thrown away. Connectors, you get plastics and metal pins. Now, these metal pins, you have two. You have copper plus nickel or you have copper plus gold. Now, if you see there's a third color which you are seeing, this is orange color. Whenever you see, I'm sorry about a spelling mistake out there, but whenever you see a orange color over here, it means that this commodity is directly saleable. Also, if you can process it further, you can make more money. It can actually go in the precious metal recovery stream. Okay. Others, you get mixed metals. Again, you see this orange box, it can be sold as it is, or it can go in the precious metal recovery stream. And there are mixed non-metals, which some of them are saleable, some of them are not. ICs, again, non-metals and metals. Within non-metals, the plastic part is saleable, ceramic is not, because it gets converted into a powder form. And the metals are copper, gold, silver, and palladium, if you can do all these things, right? If you can extract it. And the MLCCs, they are rich in copper, palladium, and silver. So this is what it's all about. Now, if I draw a vertical line right from this depopulation, where the depopulation box starts, below it, the right side of the screen, or if I just scroll it and show you what I mean to say, yeah, this part, what you're seeing just now, this part is the precious metal recovery and it requires level 3 of uh, processing. This part is level 1, level 2 of processing, which is copper, up to copper and aluminum. And the top till this level, this whole part, what you saw over here, this is your level 1 process. Okay. So that's what I wanted to explain you with this diagram. I'm stopping the sharing of this particular screen, and I'll go back to our presentation now. Okay, so there we go. Was it useful?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay. And can you see the presentation screen now?
Yes,
Are
sir,
we back
yes.
to the 5 steps?
Yes.
Great. Great. So, yeah. So, having said, talked about these 5 steps and talked about the solutions that exist, within these 5 steps and around them, there are 5 main business areas where you can play. So let's look at those areas. Okay. You can play these 5 roles. You can play the role of a PRO. PRO is the aggregator role that we talked about in detail. This is based on step 1 and step 2 of our e-waste solution steps. The third step of e-waste solution uh, is that of refurbish and resale. This is an overlapping step. You can actually do this activity in any of the roles that you pick up. Okay. You can play the role of a dismantler. This is step 4 of our solution. We talked about that also in a good amount of detail. This is, and perhaps the most lucrative one. At least that's what the media makes it look like. But believe me, all these 3 roles are important, and there is a good amount of money to be made across all these 3 roles. Now, here is one thing that you need to keep in mind. You need a license from the Pollution Control Board for functioning as a PRO or a dismantler or a recycler. The process is that you need to apply to your local PCB office for a consent to establish. It's an online application. You need to upload certain documents like your company registration, PAN card, and so on and so forth. Along with these documents, you will also need to submit a detailed project report, which should contain details about your process, machinery that you're planning to use, the pollution potential, mm, and what all you are going to do to control the pollution at your facility. Besides that, you will also need to submit a financial overview and a CS certificate, which will essentially certify that you as an entrepreneur are capable of pulling off the project. Okay. Once you submit this project report, typically within 45 working days, the PCB's Pollution Control Board will give you a consent to establish, provided the project is in line with the guidelines laid down by the MOEF and the CPCB as per the e-waste rules 2016. You then have about 6 months to install the project, and then you go back to the PCB for consent to operate. The field officer will then visit the site and check that everything that you have promised to do has been done and your facility is compliant to the pollution control board. Satisfied, you will then be given a consent to operate, and that is when you start your company. Now, apart from these core roles, you can also play supporting roles such as being a consultant or a technology provider, like what my company Response India does. You can provide consulting services in many areas, such as pre-startup process, the actual factory setup, consulting services for operations, compliance audits, and so on. You can actually provide the technology for recycling. The field is wide open, okay, and across the world. There are a few companies, very few companies, making machines dedicated to waste management, and even fewer focused on e-waste. You can import from other countries, or you can build your own technology like what we have done. And you can also export to other countries if you are able to get buyers over there. Finally, when it comes to technology, you may want to know how the machineries will look like. So I would request you to go to YouTube, search for Response India. You will see some videos about how the machinery looks like, right? Apart from that, there are many other machines that you may need: depopulation machine, sorting line, CRT breaker, bulb tube crusher, so on and so forth. All these machines and the precious metal extraction machinery, of course, all these machines are seldom made by a single company. You can always specialize in one and build your own niche. Now, there is a decent scope for manufacturing, and not just for India, but also for exporting to the entire globe. Okay. Machinery is not the only thing. There are other niches such as inventory control system for the e-waste recycling plant, collection apps, social media marketing services, scrap exchange platforms, a transparent collection system based on blockchains, and so on. Okay? So these are latent needs of the e-waste industry, but that is where the real challenge and the real money is. You just need to sit down and ideate. Okay? Think about solving some specific problem for which you can get paid. That is the ultimate mantra in any business, and that applies to e-waste as well. So let me just quickly summarize. Okay. Please, I actually had a feedback form, but I think I'll have to let forego that because of the time. Also, we don't have too much time on hand. Okay, we talked about 5 reasons why e-waste business is lucrative. I did not have any specific slide on that, but I did talk about it in length. We talked about the massive generation, the gap between generation and handling infrastructure, and so on. We talked about the 5 aspects to the e-waste problem, right? Uh, the nature of the problem, why is it a problem, how big it is, how important it is, and finally, it is an opportunity which someone is anyways going to grab. Okay, so why not you? We also talked about 5 steps to solve the problem: aggregation, segregation, reuse and refurbish, dismantling and trading, recycling and resource recovery. And against all these 5 steps, how you can structure an economically viable business. And lastly, we talked about the 5 roles that you can play in the e-waste domain: the PRO, dismantler, recycler, consultant, and technology provider. And since we talked about 5 points and these are only four, let me complete the fifth one over here also by giving a quick list of 5 things that my company can do for you if you were to get in uh, the e-waste domain, including as a competitor to us. I believe in abundance. Okay. So even if you want to be my competitor in any area, I'll be happy to collaborate with you in some other area. Okay. Here are the 5 things that we can do for you. Consulting for setup, including project report service, architectural layout, shop floor operations flow, including direct liaison with government bodies for approval. Okay. Sorry, excluding license. We don't do licensing ourselves, but we can put you onto the right people. Okay. Marketing, that's the second point. Client acquisition and getting contracts in place. Okay, we can help you over there. Financial consulting, machinery supply, installation, commissioning and training. And the fifth is outsourced operations service for actually conducting the business for you. Okay, so in a nutshell, we can make your e-waste business lucrative. Okay, so I'm open for questions, and I would request sincerely to give you all for all of you to give me a feedback. I had a feedback form, but anyways, let's forget it for the time being. Okay, so can we look at certain questions if you have any in whatever
Yes,
time
so
we have left?
Yes, so definitely. First of all, I would like to thank you that the information was, very interesting. Even if people are working in it right now, it is a very hot topic. E-waste is a very, interesting subject. But what happens is, people are not aware about the small, the small things in it. When we go on field, that is when we come to know what are the small problems in it, what are the issues we face in it. So the slides and the presentation were really interesting and amazing. So thank you for that. Moving on to the
Thank you.
questions. Yes, moving on to the questions. The first question is that for the scrap, like the waste pickers, the unauthorized waste pickers, are there any rules for these waste pickers? Because the authorized ones, they recycle it properly, but the unauthorized waste pickers, which we know or which we have seen, what they do is they take out the main like the parts of it, and the remaining they either burn it down or they do something that is going to hamper the environment.
Correct.
So, are there any
Correct.
rules for
Correct.
those waste pickers?
Yes, of course. Basically, waste pickers are not allowed to, pick up any kind of waste. Uh, I think my video is a little bit choppy, so I may want to stop that if it's okay, or let it be as it is. Anyways, coming back to the question, uh, waste pickers, first of all, are not allowed to operate in this space just like that. They are today operating because we as consumers throw away electronics irresponsibly, right? And that is the reason why they find it, and if they find it, they are picking it up. I don't think they are at fault. Okay, if they are seeing something lying and they see an opportunity, they are taking the opportunity. That's not their fault. It's our fault that we are throwing it. That's the first thing. Second, now once they take it, they are, like you rightly said, they break open and they leach in acid or they burn or whatever. That's completely prohibited. However, the point is, how do you enforce the prohibition? So that is not possible, given the size of the country, given the number of informal people or rack pickers picking up such kind of scrap. It is very difficult to put any controls over them. What can be done though is these informal rack pickers, if a institution like yours or any recycler also can collect all of these people together and say that, hey, don't do all these things. You are collecting, you collect, you bring it to us, and we pay you a fixed fee for it. As long as they are getting their money, they are also not bothered about doing all this nonsense. See, nobody creates pollution on purpose. It's a compulsion. Okay, let's understand that more than 50% of this country is living under the poverty line today. Whatever the definition of poverty is given, that's a very strange definition, but whatever generally one may say as poverty, at least 50% people are below that line. Now if you are in under that poverty line, you are going to do everything possible to survive. Okay, so in that process, if they are burning things and if they are putting in acid, it's not their fault, it's our fault. So we have to give them an avenue for living, by following which they will not be forced to do these things, right? So that is one thing that we can do. Otherwise, regulation exists, but implementation is not possible. We can ourselves try and do certain things, like I said, and that could probably be uh, a face saver. Yeah.
Okay, so
Any other
yes,
questions?
absolutely. I think our next question is a little related to this one. The second question is that we consider e-waste collection, disposal, recycling at city level. But when we go on a little lower level in rural
Hmm.
areas or at villages, we see that they don't even have an idea that there is a separate category for e-waste. So they just give it to the
Correct.
unauthorized waste pickers. So the question is, how can we work
Yes.
like reach in the village area, in rural areas, and are there any entrepreneurship opportunities in rural areas or related to e-waste in rural areas?
Yes, first thing is, yeah, the only way to do it is spread awareness. Okay, first thing is, government of India has got a fund. Okay, so as a e-waste activists, if you want to create awareness, the Ministry of Environment and Forests has a fund which you can apply for and get it. Okay, so that money can be used for funding your activity, and also uh, you can keep whatever is remaining out of it. It's a decent amount of money. It's a handsome amount of money, and you can really make a good living out of it. So that's one thing that can be easily done. Second, to answer your question is very simple. It's about spreading awareness, right? It's just about awareness. 5 years back, if you see, even in Mumbai there was no awareness. Even in Pune there was no awareness. In Bangalore there was no awareness. What happened was these NGOs like GTZ and Toxic Links and others, they promoted certain campaigns. They ran a lot of awareness campaigns. They ran a lot of awareness programs, and then people like you and me also came in together. We did a lot of things, what was possible for us to raise the awareness levels. In fact, today also we do a lot of activities within schools and colleges to raise the awareness levels. Children are the best ones who can really they are the ones who are more conscious about filth, because they have not got conditioned to filth. Okay, their minds are still fresh, and they are the ones who can really understand. So, and they have this in every school now has this environmental subjects also. So So that is awareness spreading is what we need to do. And in the rural areas, there definitely can be a local collection agency, like any of these recyclers can establish a collection center in, let's say for example you are in Pune, so you can establish a collection center little further, let's say in Fursungi, or little further than that, and that collection center can collect from areas close by, say around 50 kilometers or even 10 kilometers nearby, 10 15 kilometers nearby, and collect the scrap in one place, and that scrap can be uh, then collected through a single round of transporting. So that's the way it can be done. So there's definitely a model which can be built over there. We are working with some large companies who are thinking of putting certain things like this in place, right? So we definitely are very positive that things will happen. Okay. Does that answer
Yes,
your question?
finger crossed. We hope that there's, a better, we can see better changes in the near future. The next question is that is it better to start as a collector, like e-waste collector, and then set up a whole plant of e-waste recycling and other procedures? So while initiating the program or the system, is it better to start as a collector uh, in the beginning?
um, the answer is yes and no, because what happens is when you go for a collection, the large corporates and the large generators, they typically ask you what is your setup, and some of them may want to see and visit it. If you don't have your own setup, they'll insist that you have to ensure that it goes to a authorized e-waste center only, and you need to give them the proof that it is going over there. So that becomes a little tedious part of it. So that's one thing. However, you can do only collection as well. It's perfectly possible. You can sign up as a PRO, and as a PRO, you have tie-ups with the manufacturers on one side, the bulk generators on other side, and you can show that you are a PRO, and on the third side you are connected with the authorized e-waste recyclers. So then it becomes it all falls in place. So collection can be done as a separate activity also. However, it is not necessary to do it. You can do collection and recycling together as well. But like I said in my presentation, generally I suggest that people should focus on what they are good at. Okay. So don't try to do everything. It's too much to be done. Then what happens is you have a very limited bandwidth, and you can only do a certain amount of things. Uh, you can't focus well, and then you feel the business is not earning you enough, and all those things happen. So better is to focus on a particular field and build your niche and make money over there. That's what I personally would advise.
For the time being, we shall consider the last question for right now. Viewers can still keep commenting on the video, and we shall convey it to our speaker, and the questions will definitely be answered soon. So, for right now, we shall consider the last question. To become a consultant, like in entrepreneurship opportunities, we saw that consultancy is a good option. So to become a consultant, is there any course available, and if so, what is the hiring procedure for a consultant in working in e-waste?
That's a long question to answer. I'll take the easier part first. As far as the course is concerned, there is no specific course as such. But yeah, there are training programs that people conduct. Like I am also going to conduct one program I just mentioned some time back. I'm going to conduct one program, and if somebody wants to do that, they may attend the program, and then they can become, probably they will have that knowledge to be a consultant. Okay, now the second part of your question was how do you get hired? The hiring process. that depends on what is your deliverable as a consultant. So if you are becoming, for example, if you are thinking of becoming a circular economy consultant, then your customer class is different. Whereas if you are becoming a consultant to e-waste recyclers, then your consultant is different. Or if you are becoming a consultant to PROs for organizing their supply chains or organizing their logistics and all, then your customer class is different. So depending on what you are going to do, your customer class will differ, and based on that customer class, they will have their own norms of hiring. Okay, so ultimately it's like you have to make your own, the format like is very simple. You have to make your own profile in which you highlight what you do, what you specialize in, how you do, how the customer is going to benefit, and how much do you charge. So once you give this kind of proposal to your selected customers, some of them may be interested, whom and of the interested people, a few will give you business. Now that's how it works, right?
Yes. So I'm sure our viewers will be very much satisfied with all the answers, as you have really explained with detail, and we could see that you have poured your heart out in the presentation as well as while answering the questions. So yes, I would like to thank you for sparing your valuable time with us and getting associated with Purnamiko Vision Foundation for this webinar we have arranged today. So yes, thank you everyone, all the viewers also. Before going, I would like to appeal to our viewers that you can voluntary and participate in the programs and projects which Purnam is, currently working on. And if you want to, you can contact us on our Facebook page. So yes, I'm sure the viewers will be happy with this content of the webinar today. So thanks a lot for getting associated with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tanvi. Thank you, Purnam team, and thank you all the entire audience. Have a
Thank
great
you, sir.
evening.
Yes, sir, thank you.